Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Flores. I'm currently in the Bachelor's in Human Services, and this is the project for the Addictions and Family Counseling. And today I'll be presenting from the movie Drugstore Cowboy. It'll be based off of a character named Robert or Bob Hughes. He's the main character in this movie. And so we're going to be diving in a bit more into his information and his backstories. So the case study, Robert Hughes, Robert Bob Hughes, is a 26-year-old man who has an opiate addiction and has had it all his life. He's become estranged from his mother, so he no longer has his father in his life, has no siblings, only has his mom. But due to his drug intake and his use, he became estranged. She threw him out of the house with his wife Diane, which we'll get to shortly. So yes, he's no longer with his mother. To support his drug use, he uses the help of his crew members, which is now his new family, wife Diane, best friend Rick, and his girlfriend Nadine. And they come up with elaborate plans to rob different locations. Normally they target drugstores, local hospitals in the country and the county, which lands him in big trouble with the police. This man does have a criminal record. He has a few felonies, but that doesn't stop him from continuing his antics for drugs. Now, as I mentioned before, Bob is very much estranged from his mother, so he doesn't have his mother in his life unless he needs her for clothing or food or money, but unfortunately, his mom does not want to do that for him as a provider of money because she knows it'll go straight to drugs. Let's see. So sorry. Okay. So the clinical family assessment. So I would be conducting an intake with Robert and see how his group or his crew would react in regards to his recovery. Unfortunately, in the movie, they were not keen on him being in recovery. So instead, they let him go. He saw his own ways out. He decided to leave his crew and look for resources himself. So, although due to the nature of his group and their need to use, it would be less likely that they would join Bob in his recovery journey. Instead, I would find ways to implement his estranged mother who cares very deeply for her son and only wants him to get clean. In the movie, it shows that he also loves his mother very much, and the only thing that parted them was his drug addiction. I would conduct assessments to see when the addiction started and how long it's been going for, some possible reasons for the drug use, and take a look at the family dynamics for support. So, within the movie, I can very much clearly tell that Robert loves his mom because when he goes to visit her, he gives her a big, big hug and many kisses. But obviously, because of the addiction, his mother is more weary of that. Now, we're going to go ahead and get to the family dynamics. So, in regards to the family dynamics, we have the enabler, which is Diane. Within the movie, when Bob decides to go clean and start his journey to sobriety at the methadone house, his now ex-wife, Diane, continues to question whether he's making the right choice. Once in the sober house, she visits him and tempts him with a gift from her and his old friends, which was a bag full of drugs. So she's very much wondering why he wants to change his way of living. When he offers to have her come with him, she refuses. She says she doesn't want to go into a sober house. So she's very much the enabler because she tries to convince him to come back into the non sober life that he was living before. The scapegoat is the person who is admittedly the drug addict or the user. In this case, it would be Bob because he is actively using. And The Lost Child is a bit of an interesting one that I looked into. Normally, it would portray children within the family. I believe in this case, the lost child would be the mother, Mrs. Hughes. Because since she had removed Bob from her home, it's believed that she's the one who withdraws from interactions with her son. So she pulls herself away from any type of things that he might be doing to himself, so she doesn't have to look into what he's up to. It's very much a secluding herself from her son. Now, the barriers between the family. I believe that one of those barriers could be an issue with the distance that Bob has with his mother. She couldn't help or cope with his addiction anymore, and so she sent him away to be on his own. Making the change to bring her back into the family system can motivate Bob more because he loves and cares for his mother. So as I said earlier, he gave her a big hug and a big kiss when he went to in the movie when he went to go pick up some clothing for himself and his wife. I honestly believe that if we were to strengthen that bond, then he would be able to have more of a support system. Diane is no longer in the picture, so now that he's removed himself from the drug scene, he no longer is seeing Diane. Diane is with a different crew, so he would no longer have to have the person enabling him to take more drugs, more drugs. His best friend Rick is also out of the picture. He no longer is hanging with him anymore. He also wanted to continue his life of drugs. Unfortunately, within this movie, Rick's girlfriend Nadine does die from an overdose. So she is no longer in the picture as well. I believe that there also should be some understanding between Bob and Mrs. Hughes. The possibility of them bringing them back together and having the opportunity to those two be together once again can really affect him in the wrong run, as I mentioned earlier. Another possible thought or the barrier that could happen, especially between Mrs. Hughes and her son Bob, would be the possible thought of a relapse. So she might not be as into the thought of him changing. She might think, oh, she might be in the pre contemplation stage where she might think that Bob might not stick to his new life and will relapse back into the scene. He'll fall back into drugs. Like, why would all this be necessary? He's lived a life full of drugs. He's lived a long life without any type of going clean. So it would definitely be a big barrier between those two and the support. I believe that she would be brought back into help, but most likely, again, as I stated, be in the pre contemplation stage, in the stages of change model. Whereas Bob would end up being in the solution focused and contemplation phase. He wants there to be a solution. Since the death of the girlfriend Nadine, he looked towards God and promised that if he were not to be caught for this murder, this death, that he would go clean. And so now he seeks every way to get clean. So, some addiction treatments in this movie. One of them is that Bob decides to go on a 21-day methadone program, which is a pharmacological treatment to help kick the opioid habit. While there, he also goes to group therapy sessions where he sits around with others who are using or are trying to get clean, and will basically have a group discussion They will all talk about their previous uses, and then they can help each other strengthen their bases, like those who go to AA meetings. They have a sponsor, they have someone who can advocate for them, and so on and so forth. Treatments that I could provide. One of these treatments would be bringing in Mrs. Hughes, as I've described before, to provide him that support system. He does have almost a non existent family at the moment. The only family he had was his crew. So I believe that it would ensure that Bob has the support system and who could continue to motivate him to stay on the right path. I also believe that while he is in the methadone sober house, I would be able to evaluate and continue his group counseling sessions offered at the facility. I would evaluate him based on his strengths, his weaknesses, what he could support, what other methods of coping strategies he can use instead of drugs, and ways to avoid them if that's the case. I would then shift to the sequential family addictions model, which would be the motivational interviewing and solution focused therapy. I believe that Bob is looking for a solution to his opioid problem, and so this would help Bob and his mother as I define the problem at hand, set achievable goals, and assign homework for him to continue the motivation of his treatment. Afterwards, I would use a method to strengthen their connection through the cognitive behavioral family therapy with planning and action. This can prevent future negative behaviors from sprouting by identifying the primary and secondary reasons behind the addictive behaviors. So, a quick recap. Overall, this movie encompasses the unsettling and destructive nature of the addiction. It exploits themes of self doubt and the impact that drugs can have on others. The movie also shows the sides of what an addict will do in order to get their fix, while avoiding capture from the police. This movie only has a short screen time of Bob and his recovery during the methadone clinic scenes, but it also shows that he goes through the pharmacological intervention to be able to get off of the opiates. Although it doesn't show much family connection, I do believe that we can create that family connection through the mother now that the group of friends cannot kick their own habits and can't help Bob himself. That shows the reality of drug use and how dangerous it can be in regards to selling and stopping. As seen in this movie, unfortunately, Bob does get attacked when he tries to go clean because people want to get drugs from him since he was the dealer before. And now I have some local and national resources. So one of them is Beach House Rehab Center in Juno Beach. So it's a short-term rehabilitation center, those for who are suffering with opioid addictions or alcohol addictions. We have the Renaissance Recovery in Vero Beach, which is a more local for me as I live in Vero Beach. This one offers different types of resources for those who are seeking recovery. Legacy Healing Center in Boca Raton is a more long term alcohol and drug rehab center. You can build lives there and be able to focus more on your healing rather than focusing on other things. The Florida State Opioid Response Project is a national project that's discussed with Florida, and it makes it a lot easier for those who are seeking out help and resources. For those who don't know where to start, where to go, that would be a good option. And then the Agape Detox Center in Port St. Lucie is another rehab center where they can go and detox within a few days. Thank you so very much.